Come squish in. We'll say the Lord's Prayer too.
Have I got everyone?
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Now, when he gets that photo, Lord, let him just feel washed over with love. So let's say the Lord's Prayer, and then I'm just going to then continue into just a bit of a prayer for Ian and for us today. So, I suppose...
Should we hold hands?
Yeah,
What? I mean, they can come and arrest us if they want to.
What do you mean?
Holding
I've
hands.
got no idea what you mean. I just...
COVID. Are they come and arrest us
we're
if
not
they
going
want?
to bring that into...
Let's say the Lord's Prayer.
That's gone.
Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever.
Amen.
Please be seated. We were spiritually involving you then, Guan.
Well, he was with us.
He was with us.
We could hear him.
Dear Lord, we collectively gather around Ian right now, and we stretch out our spiritual hands, and we say, we are your arms, your feet, your hands, your heart. We are your vessels. Let your life flow through us and to Ian with such a golden, warm, healing energy. He is feeling it from his head to his feet. He's feeling it in his mind, in his spirit. His body is knitting back together rapidly. And there's such an awe and sphere that even the doctors and nurses are coming into that and making such wise decisions towards his healing. And we thank you that he's at peace and rest as you heal him. And we look forward to seeing him very soon. In your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
And as we open your word this morning, Lord, let our hearts be encouraged. Touch us in new ways. Lift us into new dimensions. Strengthen us. Open our eyes even more. And may our actions follow with conviction and love. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah. So, don't go anywhere at the end. When we close in prayer, I'll give us an update on the events of what unfolded and what happened. It's quite incredible how things have unfolded, and I can do detective work and gathering as much as I can get to just what exactly happened. But for now, I know that Ian will be encouraged, let us put our thoughts on the Lord. We're looking at the last of the kingdom of heaven parables. These are really the foundational parables upon which the Lord teaches the other 30 or so parables and takes us into the deep mysteries of God, into the incredible ways that his kingdom works inside us. Now, if we look at this parable purely from a natural level, from a sensual level, which is what most of us tend to do, we're going to see that it's a parable about the end of the church age. Eon, the word in the Greek was at the end of the church eon or age, these things would happen, Matthew 24. So it's talking about the end of the church age and the beginning of the Lord's new church or new era of his kingdom on earth. And if you bring it to a personal level, this is where it really speaks to us and gives us lots of rich treasures. If you think about it, if we're doing the spiritual work, if we're on the path, we are always coming more and more into the Lord's newness. Would you agree with that? Lord's newness / the Lord's new church. That's all new church really means. It means coming more and more into the Lord's newness. And so this parable is actually about those times in our life where we're more conscious of it. In heaven, they just go from newness to newness to newness, and old estates just pass away. But for us, we tend to consciously experience all the gritty stuff, the struggle to come into the Lord's newness more. And when we do get a breakthrough, what a wonderful, peaceful, joyful time it is oh, can I just stay here, Lord? Yeah, for the moment, yes. But there's more to do, and you go, oh, back into it. But one other thing I'll say before we go into this is that I really prayed a lot about these terms that I'm using, like soul warrior or advancing soul. I know you like that term. And I wrestled myself in the Lord with that about, are these the right words to use? And I've come to peace with it, and I'm convinced more than ever, I think Dr. Noel's on his way in, so I'm convinced more than ever it's the right kind of language. But I'll say this, when you hear the words like warrior, what does Sally say? She says, I'm not a warrior, I'm a warrior. It's true. When you think of warrior, it's talking, we're not talking about messy battles out here. We're just talking about being conscious of the fact. Come in, Dr. Noel. Wow, feel the energy rising
Haven't
more.
seen you for a year.
Come have a seat.
Kind of music, huh?
That's yours. So, when we talk about this term warrior, we're not to think of bloodthirsty battles. We're being aware of the fact that while on earth, we're being challenged so that we may grow stronger and become freer from all the unnecessary junk in our life. And it's internal. This is so helpful when someone is causing you grief or frustration or pain, and the natural mind wants to go, oh, this person. Instead, we turn it and go, this is an opportunity the Lord's now given me through the encounter with this person, yes, for me to see that here is some stuff that I can be a warrior, wrestle with it until it is cast down, and the Lord's forgiveness, love, peace, joy, all those beautiful things can come in and fill that place that was once preoccupied by my unregenerate state.
Great point.
Yes.
Let me cut a little
Yeah,
bit
please do.
about Pastor Ian.
Mhm.
Because yesterday, Sarah and I were there. Just when we come in, just a couple of seconds, and there is what they call physio
Yes.
come in and ask her, this first time, ask him to standing up by
Really?
himself.
Stand up.
Oh, and then move his body
Yeah.
from the bed and it become from this and into there and
Right.
come in.
Yes,
So
sir.
I and with that physio together hold him up, and we can see Pastor Ian like that.
Wow.
But he's a warrior.
He's a warrior.
Warrior is
Yeah.
fighting with the pain
Yeah.
and standing up like that. And, but eventually, standing like that. I mean, it's like that.
Wow.
So I communicated with that physio. I said, "Is it possible to stand straight?" Yeah. So I kneel down there. So I hold his.
And even the touch.
It
you know,
touch,
like
that's right.
saying That,
When
that
they
would
touch.
lay your hands on him.
It's so cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cold, no body. So I warm hand, and
Warm
but I physically straight,
Stretch them.
and this is so happy, and he is also happy. So eventually it's from this to this, and it's a worry. So
Wow.
it's a big effort.
Yeah.
So the Lord,
Please.
no, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
The Lord specifically sent the disciples out in twos, right? In the twos, because it's season 3. Anyway, and of course it speaks of the witness, the witness, and how many people are needed for a powerful prayer to be prayed? 2, right? So there is you, and then there is God. There's your 2. You don't need, you don't physically need another person. But I love the fact that you were able to be a second person, like a second angel for the physio there to be there for Ian. That's wonderful. The timing, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's get into this. I'm going to just, I like to share it around, so I'm going to share it around, but I'm just going to plough us in quickly so that we have enough time to get through everything today, as well as I'll be able to, after the sacred service, if you don't run away, we'll fill you in on Ian's incredible week that he's had. Let's begin. The seventh parable of the kingdom of heaven, or I've put it here, the reordering of our inner states. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea, and it gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore, and sat down, and gathered the good into vessels, but cast the bad away. So it shall be at the end of the eon, age, the world. The angel shall come forth, and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire, where shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. And immediately our sensual wants to see it as wicked people versus good people. But as we lift this up into its spiritual meaning, it is the angel separating wicked states inside us from just or good states. But we'll get into that. The separating of the good and the evil. In this concluding parable, the Lord teaches us about a separating process, much like the sheep and goat parable. Spiritual separation is different from material separation in that it is the separation of character and people rather than place and time. On a deepest level, it is the separation of states. States of goodness cannot exist with states of evil or selfishness. Think of it like this. The beauty of colour lays in the separation of each unique colour. If you mix all colours, then you have an indiscriminate brown mass. Black or brown, isn't it? Yeah. This is one of the reasons why I like to say it often. What is a human soul? It is created by God to be a unique expression of good and truth. Each one of us is a unique expression of good and truth. God, the divine, the great flame, is all good and all truth. We get to be a unique, a spark from the divine flame, a unique expression of good and truth, if we follow our path, that is. Sometimes we like to be the cold water on the fire. We like to, humans have free will. You know what I'm saying.
Collecting thoughts and feelings.
Yes, sometimes we like to be dark. May we always follow the light. If you mix all colours, you have an indiscriminate brown mass. Individual souls who have developed very different natures and characters are distinct from each other in spiritual dimensions, even if they are close to each other in physical proximity while on earth. And you see that a lot when you go to a workplace. You know, you go to a workplace and you may not choose your work colleagues, do you? But it's interesting, you might physically be with them, but it's interesting whether you can really be with them, or you, whether you gel, isn't that a nice word, gel with them, or whether you just feel internal
Distance.
Yeah, a bit of clunking, internal clunking sort of. But I say it here by saying spiritual distance is determined by one's character and loves. We see glimpses of this here on earth in statements like, oh, he's very distant today, isn't he? We talk like that, don't we? Our language is, oh, he's very distant. He might have been in the room, but he wasn't here, was he? He was very distant. Or another one, oh, that one is very near to my heart. Just like we're all probably feeling Ian very near to our heart at the moment, isn't it? He's very near. He's in this room more physically, in this room more with us than if he was physically here. Because we're all, we just can't help but think of him. So that's the way spiritual energy works. We're near or away depending on the attraction or repulsion of our state. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so heaven is not so much a place that we are admitted into. Instead, a loving state that we admit into our hearts. Maybe I'll just stop there and say, comment on that or talk about that for a moment. This is something we could really get a good hold on. What do you reckon, Paul? Heaven's not so, I mean, you will go there one day. I'm not saying you won't go there, but you'll go there if you've let it come to you first and visit you first. Does that idea make sense? Heaven is more about giving it permission to flow in to our spiritual state.
And it is the angels.
All of it, yes, the angels, the love, the Lord himself,
Yeah.
the beauty,
Because we communicate with angels.
The
we don't
harmony.
communicate with us.
yeah. That's so true. Yeah.
Our entire experience of perception, this life, next life, doesn't know it's the same thing,
Yeah.
is completely dependent on our internal state.
Our
You know,
filter.
what we choose, we actually have almost full control over that.
If we're awake.
But we've been conditioned.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned by the grace of God to be given a sense of separation, and we buy into that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And because we buy into that sense of into that external sense, gives us autonomy, which is of course a must. But now we're kind of fighting our way back into, well, what does it actually mean, and still retain that.
This is such an important point. Our finite consciousness, that kind of makes us feel separate, a separate being, but we're really all connected together in ways we can't understand, is so important for our salvation. It's or our spiritual growth. It's so important. And times where, the veil's been lifted in my life, and I've read other people's, accounts of where it's lifted, it is not, for the most part, it is not helpful. It doesn't, I've had the veil lifted and seen lots of demonic stuff. And it stops you from growing. You get into states that you don't, of fear and all sorts of negativity that you don't want to be in. But equally, I've had the blessing of a few times being exposed to angels, and those times I can't cope with their presence. It's not useful. And so this is such a blessing to have this body and this life and these opportunities where our consciousness is kind of dulled down. Is that a good way of putting it? It's dulled down so we can just work on what we need to work on and not be overwhelmed by, how many associations are here in this one room? Each one of us has our own groups, soul groups that we hang out with. Some of them are hanging out together and others are mixed. And
I have my own analogy, is the old saying, God's love is like the sun that shines on sinners and saints alike.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
the ones, sinners, I guess the ones walking around with an umbrella on, they
No.
don't want that light on them. They just,
Oh.
it's too much. It's just, no, I just want to get on with my life. So you don't know where you're going. It's, do you know what I mean? It's like,
I've got a few of those umbrellas.
yeah. But the light helps you, shows up everywhere you're going. Shows up. I remember the one you said about dark water. The deep dark water hides all the strange looking creatures. Because everything hides in the dark. But it's funny how, this is going to sound weird, but Jane and I have been researching death metal lyrics, like
Okay.
death metal, and it's just, wow. And everything about it is black. They got black, black, black. They like the darkness. They want to be away from the light. Now, then we looked up Christian death metal. Wow. I was in tears by the end of it. The lyrics were just so beautiful. So they found a market
A ministry.
where they're putting light.
niche.
And you'll see them, there's a bit more light to them. There's not much darkness, but the words are, they are out of this world. So
Wow.
they what I'm saying is, you can't escape that sun. You can create this music to create evil, but on the other hand, sun's shining on the other side here. And they've seen a market and gone, these people are walking in misery, so the light's shining on them. And I know people that are hardcore death metal, the lyrics, but they love Christian death metal. And I'm like, that's cool. So you're not getting all bad. And some of these lyrics, the bad ones, so they're listening, they like that style of music. So do you know what I'm saying? So
Oh, look, you're talking about a God of love who finds incredible ways to reach us. doesn't he?
exactly, reaching this, they can see these people are, because they mightn't understand, it's honestly, it's, and they can't understand a thing, but subliminally that would be going straight to their heart.
Yeah.
And you look at these shootings, most of them have been listening to death metal music, walked
Yeah.
in
Yes.
And the strange thing is, the most common, now this is what, the most successful death metal bands come from Scandinavia. Now Scandinavia
Really?
has the least sun in the world.
Oh,
They have
wow.
days of darkness. So darkness brings out all this. But you go to somewhere, say the Caribbean, it's all happy music, there's light on them.
Wow.
So they can create all these things in the dark within the light. These things can't survive. So I might be looking into it too deeply.
No,
but
Chris, I think you've nailed something.
so
there.
where
That's
there's
amazing.
darkness breeds darkness, and these
Mm.
words. And then Finland sometimes has 3 days of darkness. So could you imagine that? There's
Yeah, 3 days of that. That's incredible.
no what you'd create, what your mind would be in this darkness. I mean, it's just, and now the Vikings, they were antichrist to the core, beginning with the darkness.
Yeah. Right.
Can you see what I mean? There's a
Oh,
pattern.
totally.
So I didn't mean to go off track.
No,
it was
no, it's
just-
just, but this is part of what Sacred Circle is about, is us having a chance to bring something. I mean, this is obviously, you're working on this right now and looking into it, and it's going to, I promise you, it's in here, and that's why you're bringing it up, and we'll probably see the connected dots that you're getting now, and that's the beauty of being a group and breaking bread together as a group. Thank you.
It's
Sorry,
just
Don.
interesting that, you know, the external world is a reflection of our minds, right, collectively. We share it here. As Swedenborg described, that the immediate environment is a lot more reactive directly to our state. Right? You know, all of a sudden there's a bird come there's this, you know, you see the thing change. Here, of course, it's a reflection of the collective states of us, right? We have an influence over it.
Which
but
makes it a lot harder to identify.
very, very difficult.
It's
but
slower, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
slower
very-
vibration. You
much
don't always
slower.
identify how you're affecting it.
Still an impact, massive
yeah.
impact of your own personal state onto that whole energetic level,
Yes.
right, in terms of the world. It's just interesting, so for me, like, since the whole era of like, 80s, 90s, like the whole multiculturalism or whatever, everything open, races mixing, there's a lot of promotion of that.
Yep.
And I think that's actually evil, you know, in terms of the people behind actually stimulating a lot of that on purpose.
But in some ways, it's the net. It's the gathering, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
the
But
like,
it's
like being
actually
gathered
have-
under like.
You have these different cultures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And of course, people are breaking out of those cultures, which is a good thing,
Right.
because now they have more control and not trapped in that.
True.
But you also kind of see the world being influenced by, in that sense, and kind of losing some of that uniqueness.
Oh, yes, yes.
That is the beauty of some of those cultures that you have. Like
That's
you
true
talked
too.
about the Caribbean with the happy music and whatever else, almost like that, or in the East, there's other cultures there. The beauty of those cultures and that uniqueness, the richness that is there that you can actually learn from and so forth, now it seems to be corrupted, or at least not less visible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there's a bit of a sadness that comes with that in my mind, you know, that it's...
It's all part of the spiritual.
Yeah, yeah.
These are all
There's a lot of
ingredients.
things stirring and moving and changing and testing. And
Yeah.
So whatever kind of stays at the end or rises to the surface,
Yeah.
wins it. That's
And one of the things that's interesting about this, you know, we grieve and we wish it wasn't happening, but it has to happen. I know, you read Genesis, Cain kills Abel, and it's like, oh, we're 3 chapters into the Bible and one brother kills another, and yet it has to be. Cain will always kill Abel, because spiritually, Cain is the knowledge of God without the love. Knowledge without love always kills love. Abel represents love. Cain represents the knowledge without love. And these are the principles. So our outer world's going to do some violent things at times, but it really represents the reordering that's going on inside us spiritually, the net pulling in and gathering together all the stuff that we don't like, concentrated, and all the stuff we do like, concentrated as well. Let's keep going. This is good stuff. Okay, heaven is not so much a place where we are admitted into, but it's instead a loving state that we admit into our hearts. When love can live inside us, it can then manifest in new realities after the death of the body. And the opposite is true of evil and hell as well. People must engage with the Lord and His Word now, during the earthly life, in processes of removing undesirable influences from within their own souls. These processes are called spiritual combats and are signified in archetypal form as the end of the world or age. So whenever the scripture says, the end of the world, it's actually talking about a time where the Lord is bringing you internally to the end of yourself. The end of self.
Amen.
But there's coming resurrection life afterward. That's the promise that Scripture gives us, that if you didn't have Scripture, you would just go, what are you doing to me, God?
But elders are a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Elders, you look at their knowledge and
Yeah.
because they're coming to the end. I remember when I was like that, so that's why we look at elders.
Sometimes they're looking from the other side, aren't they, Chris? They've come to the end of themselves and they're now at peace and they're talking and you go, oh, I'm not getting what you're saying. But then you go through the battle, you come the other side and you go, oh, I get it now, I'm listening
Yeah, and
to
you'll
you.
hear them say, I'm the person I've always wanted to be.
Wow.
Because the ego's you're starting to shed
die.
that ego off, and if you think in minds beyond this world, in thoughts beyond this world, this physical body, it doesn't really matter.
Not really.
And this is
eternal,
in
yeah.
what's going on with Ian is knowing his faith, and he knows what's beyond here.
Mhm.
It's so comforting for us all. For somebody that hasn't any faith, like you think of Peter jumping from the boat.
Yes.
I mean, if he didn't have that faith at all, I mean, it's a perfect. It's hard to explain, but people that don't have faith, I worry for.
Yeah.
People who have faith in the Lord, it's like the battle almost over.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. Thank you again. That's beautiful. Dr. Noel, would you mind reading? We'll go around. Is that if people don't mind reading?
So heaven is not so much a place.
Oh, we read that one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Again.
Love can live inside us. It can then manifest in new realities after the death of the body. And the opposite is true of evil and hell as well. People must engage with the Lord and His Word. Now during the rest of their life, in process of removing undesirable influences from within their own souls. These processes are called spiritual combats and are signified in archetypal form as the end of the world age. Cause them into a furnace and failing and gnashing of teeth. So I have some reflection on this. The word we call heaven is born along with us. When we are born, we are coming like heavenly bodies. So the first 3 months of a child's phase of life, the child is very innocent. The child doesn't know anything. It's absolutely in
Innocence.
absolute purity.
Yes.
Absolute purity. And in that, you can see the smile of the baby, which is divine. But then the parents start attaching, they give a name, they call with a name. Then the baby starts attaching itself to the parents and then to the environment, the house, the toys, the school, children. So the moment we get attached to the world, we lose our purity of life.
Mm-hmm.
So what we call hell is the world. But the heaven is a joyful state, which is divine. So we have acquired this hell in our life just because we are born into this world. But we don't belong to this world. The world is an empty place. It is just absolutely artificial. This is not genuine. It is not real. So we are attaching too much to the unrealities of life, and so the reality disappears. So to bring back the reality is all these exercises of all spiritual exercises to get back to the divine, which is the original
So
state.
like you're saying is the saying when people go find your inner child, go back to your inner child, is that
Yes.
the same?
The original child, the child is the divine, the original spirit, in the nascent form. In the first 1 or 2 or 3 months, it doesn't acquire any attachment. The moment I recognize I am Kanagaraj, I am Dr. Noel, I am a pastor, I am this and I am that. The moment you attach, the whole thing, joins with that and masks our originality. So we always call, and I don't feel calling like myself as a original person. I would like to call myself as Dr. Noel, or a businessman, or a prime minister, or a minister, or all this attachment, imbues our spiritual dimension, and then we give all importance to that. We don't recognize somebody if he is absolutely plain and simple. Like all those sages and saints, they live naked. The reason being they don't want to attach to anything, including the dresses. They're absolute. See, so they are able to see the light very differently.
Yes.
Because they're not connected to anything. They're only connected to the cosmic forces.
May I build on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let me build on that. Here is the incredible thing about this, that we existed in God before we took birth on earth. We were the thoughts of God. My thoughts are not like your thoughts, it says in Isaiah. We're alive because God's thoughts are alive. But by coming to earth and taking that attachment or ego that you talk about, we get to become a soul as well as a spirit, and thus we can make unique choices, and we can then we now have the possibility of becoming a unique expression of good and truth for the divine. So this is an incredible mystery and paradox, that we come here, we get attached, enslaved, suffer, overcome it, but we have transformed in the process too. Isn't this incredible?
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's now what Dr. Noel's talking about here is called levels of consciousness, and a truly advanced Christian can think and operate in different levels at the same time. So call me Pastor Darren, I don't care. That's okay, I don't mind. It's just a title, it's just a name. But I need to be able to operate as your brother, your friend, your sister, maybe your mother even. Whatever you need, I need to be able to serve you and not let the attachment overtake me. But what it does do is it gives us the ingredients for real spiritual combats, which is what this parable is about today. It's about realizing that we can't avoid the combats, and to actually be joyful and excited. A warrior kind of likes the fight. Never the fight with you or you or you, but the fight, Lord, let's do this, because that Goliath is going down. How dare that Goliath exalt itself against the name of God? I'm looking forward to this evil in my life falling, and what will come up instead? What will come up will be the resurrected ego. The resurrected ego. Isn't it amazing though?
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Thank you, God, for giving us parents and names and attachments, but also teach us the way out. Keep going. Again, the kingdom of heaven.
Then the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net, the spiritual sense of the world, searching the heart and mind of the bountiful soul. Here, the net is a symbol or archetype for good teachings and practices that enable goodness and truth to be grafted into the life of the advancing soul. So throughout our spiritual journey, the light coming to us from the world and from day one spiritual world forms into a spiritual net-like structure of good and wholesome belief systems.
Filters. Good filters. But if we have the ability to go into the levels, sometimes we can step out of the net or the filters,
Yes.
but we happily step back into it again, seeing the Lord's work. But it's good. Keep going.
So these beliefs communicate to our conscience and help direct our spiritual practices into fruitful spiritual experiences with the Lord and angels. Thus, we grow in useful goods and truths which can serve others. The gathering in of these goods and truths is a long ongoing process that is not fully realized until the harvesting cycle unfolds.
Okay, that's good. Is that clear? Yeah, is that clear? Should we allow Dr. Noel to keep? I love your reading. I love you. Should we let him keep read some more, or does anyone want to make a comment or? Yeah. Well, I just try and sit and listen to the Lord and say, what do I say here, Lord? So yeah, we're just vessels. But yep.
So the good and truths are the embodiment or the crown of Christian life.
Yes.
So all other things belong to the world, but the good and the truth, which is an expression of love, is always, the crown, the ornament of the good Christian life.
And where do we find them? They're gathered out of the waters of this world. The net goes in and it gathers out, hidden. They were hidden, treasures hidden in there. in those deep, dark waters that you were. There's lots of monsters, but there's lots of treasures in there too. If only we can kill the monsters and get the treasures.
Yes.
Keep going, Dr. Noel. I love your reading. It's good.
That was cast into the sea. The literal sense of the word, especially regarding our memories.
Mm.
Often in scripture, water is a symbol or archetype of truth in the written word of God. In the negative sense, waters can be those false ideologies that we hold to that end up overwhelming us in a drowning experience or poisoning our mind. In this parable, the waters of the oceans are our subconscious, deeper thoughts, feelings, and belief systems that are allowed for the various states, both positive and negative, to live inside us. Now the angels, the power of the spiritual sense contained within the literal sense of the word, can come forth and test the quality of our states generated by our understanding of the word.
So is this helping the parable lift it out of the sensual now into a more deeper level? Imagining angels dipping into your soul and harvesting with nets of deep teachings, good teachings, right teachings, harvesting out incredible things, and also using that to get the bad things as well out of us. It's an amazing thought, isn't it? Only the Lord could speak these parables in a way that just, you know, we hear him go, yeah, that was a good story. And then years later we're like, why did I never see that? These truths are hidden in the parables. But we know, like we learnt last Sunday, they're hidden for our good. At the right time they'll come out.
Yeah, but the mystery is
yes, the mystery, yeah.
how do you catch the right thing in the net?
Yes.
So the whole life process is, are we capable of catching the right fish into the net?
True.
Because all will swim towards the net. But how do you sieve out and how do you separate and how do you identify the right fish and then take it into a net and keep it as your possession? So this is where all the spirituality will guide us to have a discerning mind. The good from the evil, evil from the good. How do we have the discerning mind? This is where God really influences our heart to select the right thing in our life. The right partners, the right things and right choices, right job. Everything is chosen by God through us. So that will make our selections, our discretions very perfect.
Beautiful.
We don't, sometimes we say, okay, soulmate God has chosen. But who has chosen? Not you. God has chosen a
Yes.
soulmate for you.
Yes.
And lifelong you find, that choice was the best choice.
Yes.
You don't have any credit for it. But someone takes the credit, that's your God.
But Lord, they
Yeah.
keep giving me spiritual battles.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Well done, warrior. Dr. Noel,
There
here-
are no problems, only challenges.
I love it. There are no
Exactly.
problems, only solutions waiting to happen. I love it. I love it. So even as you were talking, this is a good example. I'll tell you how my mind works, right? Or how I know the Lord works with you this way too. Because we have all spent time in the Word, it becomes that net. So here is the net. And now Dr. Noel's talking, I'm thinking, yeah, how do we catch the best fish, Lord? And then I felt like the Lord was saying, remember that story where Peter was fishing all night? Oh yeah, that's a good story, Lord. And how was Peter feeling? Well, he was moaning, oh Lord, you want me to throw the net in one more time? I've been fishing all night. I've caught nothing. Hang on, because this is you, I'll do it. Yeah, like he throws it on the other side, doesn't he? And this is the key. I think what you're saying, Dr. Noel, is when we're led by the Spirit of God, we will catch those fish. And when we're led by ourselves, we're going to work all night and come away frustrated with an empty net. Oh, I'm starving. I'm not going to be eating tonight. I'm going to go hungry. How many times have you been hungry with an empty net? Isn't it? It's such a good point. But it's such a good example right now, such a good example now of how when we give ourselves to the Word, at some point you'll be sitting in a room and someone will be talking and you'll go, oh yeah, all right, such a good point. How do I catch the fish and not miss them? And he uses that. But here's another story from the
Well,
scripture.
actually, it's twisted as well, that the right
Yes.
thing might already be in the net, you just don't recognise it.
You just haven't seen it yet. Your
Yeah,
eyes aren't open to it yet.
exactly.
But here's another one that came to me as
There's
Dr.
another paradox is why we make a mistake is because we always depend on somebody else other than us. We don't listen to our inner voice. Our inner voice will always give a clear direction.
Yes.
But we always ignore that inner voice. And okay, my friend has said, my wife has recommended, my teacher has recommended. We go by somebody else's decision and we make a blunder in our life. This is what the
blunder.
conflict
A
really
blunder.
comes in life. Yeah.
So, Dr. Noor, when you said we question ourselves too, I chose this partner, maybe I should have chose that partner, or, whatever we do, we think we're in control. And you were talking like this, and again, another scripture came to my mind, and this is for all of us today. The Lord is saying to us, he says, you didn't choose me. I chose you. So say after me, Lord,
Lord,
I am your disciple, and you are my master. Amen. We are all disciples here, and we didn't choose him. He chose us. But the ego likes to think, I picked this person, and I did this, and I did that. But like you said, Dr. Noel, that's the place of suffering, isn't it? The ego is the place of...
Yes, exactly.
Anything else?
well, you talk back about what we are, talked before about us being, goods and truths, and collections of goods and truths.
Yes, a
feelings
collection,
and
a
affections.
unique collection of goods and
That's
truths.
what we are.
Yes.
But I remember years ago, Ian kind of wrestled with this, and he expressed that at a point once, and I've never forgotten that because I think it's so true. Is that like, who am I or what am I? And they're like, the power to choose. So we do, like, it's not that we don't choose. We do choose, but we choose in the moment. And there's basically only one choice: is the right choice or the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And that comes all from intention. And if we follow has a heart in the right place,
Yes.
point in the right direction, that's all we can kind of do. We can't own the outcomes,
Yes.
But
No.
we do own the choice moment by moment
We-
by moment.
Talking in levels again. You guys are all mature enough for us to talk in levels. I know that. And so even as you're talking, I'm slipping in and out of different levels. Yes, I am choice. But then I slip into another level and I realise the divine has invested so much into us. Swedenborg says millions of a time in every second he's altering things to help me make the best possible choice I can. And he says if my ego were to get a glimpse of it, I'd get angry. Stop interfering, God. But the soul, the real me, says, thank you for helping me. And that's the place of peace, isn't it, Chris? When we realise, like the elders, that the Lord has this. He's got this. And we stop struggling so much. And we come into the place of the elder of letting go. We overcome the battle and let the Lord win it for us and bring us into the victory. It's such a much more peaceful, joyful place to be. There's nothing wrong with the youthful wrestling. Do that. We all need to do that. But the goal is to rest, come to the day 7 or resting in the peace of God. And no matter what's going on, even like what Ian's going through right now, we have this peace. It's okay. The Lord has got good things for me.
Oh, the Lord did say, don't worry about tomorrow. Today has
Enough battles.
battles.
Enough battles. Oh, that was my word, battles.
Oh,
yeah.
enough trial. Whatever, you know what I mean?
Evil. He said evil.
Enough problem.
Evil.
Yeah. And it's true that you got to think that day at a time, because if you keep thinking back or forward, just think of today. It's hard.
Let me say, we'll finish this page and maybe continue this parable next month, if that's okay. We don't want to rush it. But let me just say, in praying about today, I kept getting the story of, there's that net again, the story of Moses. God, I've walked with you a long time now. I've even crossed into the desert and lived there 40 years, and now you have me back here leading your people. Can I see your face? Can I see your glory? I hear your voice, but can I see your face? But if we were to see the face of God, the ego would dissolve away and we would die. So God says, no, you can't see my face, Moses, but I'll give you this. Stand in that valley, and I will scoop you up and put you up into that cave, cover it over with my hand. I will pass through that valley, and as I pass by, you will be able to step out and see my glory as it goes by. And we say, what a strange story. These are strange. The Bible is just full of strange stories. Or is it? Because what we find out when we get to the spiritual meaning is that I can't see what the Lord is doing right now today, or what he's going to do
In retrospect.
tomorrow. No, I can't. I can't. Yeah, you're right. I can't see what he's doing right now. And we might be in, like Ian, in that bed going, what are you doing, Lord? But if we stop with the word and look back,
Yeah.
then we're allowed to see all these incredible things. The wife he chose for you, your sons, how he got you from India to Australia so we get to be blessed by you. All these amazing things that he's done. If we will look back using the word as our filter, we will see the glory of God and how he has safely brought us this far.
Well, the hymn,
to today.
Count Your Blessings. Like, you listen
That's
to
what
that.
that's
and
what
it's-
that's about.
I also, there was this scripture, Job 12:7. Like, this is along the lines of, but ask the animals and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky and they
Wow.
will tell you.
Wow.
Or speak to the earth and it will teach you. Or let the fish in the sea inform you, which of all these do not know that the hand of the Lord has done this. In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. Now, if that isn't reassuring, I don't know what is. And that's how when people want things right now, but I've prayed. I think what you taught us. Look at the things in nature. The sun rises slowly. It says that God time. And that's
Yeah.
what that's kind of saying. So
Yeah.
we can't just, we just, got to go with it and know that it is.
So when you suddenly found yourself in a battle, just know that it was planned. It's part of the process. There's a great peace and victory coming. You know, it's hard to do it in the middle of the battle. You just hold on. Hodl. Hodl, as investors say. Just hodl through the battle.
Stay in the ark.
Stay in the ark. Just stay there and just remind yourself with the net and with the word and with the truth, the battle belongs to the Lord. He will win this for me. He'll win this for me. And haven't we all come through many battles? And isn't it always so much more peaceful on the other side? It's so much easier to trust him on the other side, isn't it?
So that can happen only if you shut your mind out. The whole process of meditation is there's a distinction between the mind and the heart.
Yes.
So we always go by our mind, the logical thinking, the rational thinking. So all our senses will direct you to only use your mind to apply to every situation. But God is not working through the mind, He works through the heart. That's why the love and good things are coming from the heart. So how do you use your heart? It's only through going through a deeper and deeper meditation to know yourself, what you are. You are a divine by yourself. So the God is not sitting in the heaven, He's sitting in you. So to process that, you need to be silent, sit quietly, and then observe the power of God flowing through you.
Beautiful.
And when you experience that, the whole thing will transform automatically. Because you are experiencing the divine direct. That's why the sun and the moon and the nature, all these things are one. We are not different. We are all part and parcel of the whole universe. But we try to distinguish ourselves with our own nomenclatures. And then, okay, I am so and so, I am this and I am that. So you don't become part of the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom. The moment you become a nature itself, there's a great book called Life Comes from Life. Everything is life. So when you connect to the life, there is no difference between our life and the plant life or the animal life. All have the same Spirit of God flowing through us.
Beautiful. Wow.
But then we need to have that right understanding. How do we distinguish ourselves with God, not with the whole world? Because the whole world will destroy you. Okay, they don't want you to be with the God. If you are with the God, you are with the whole world. That's the secret of
I love it.
understanding.
The net's been coming up in my head again. We live and breathe and dwell and have our being in Him. It's so good, so good. Okay, Paul, I love your reading too. Would you read some? We've got we'll definitely make it to the bottom of the page and then we'll stop and leave the next page and a half till next month.
Sorry.
And gathered
gathered of every kind. The quality of understanding or false ideas we have derived from the world. There are certain processes the Lord must allow to occur within our minds if we are to advance in love and wisdom. The advancing soul understands the importance of developing what is life-giving and wise, while ceasing to give energy and focus on what is negative and selfish. Towards this end, the Lord must bring to the surface of our awareness our deep down motives driving our actions and choices. These processes are captured through the archetype of casting forth a net. Even the very manner in which we cast forth the net can tell us about our deeper motives. Here, in this parable, the very kind of net casting performed by the angels is designed by the Lord to bring up every state, good and bad. We can find an example of net casting in the Gospel of John, chapter 21, where the Lord tells his disciple to cast the net on the right side of the boat.
There you go, sir.
The right side of the boat signifies taking an action that is motivated by love, charity, and goodness. When we do, those actions will be filled with life and wisdom. If our actions are not motivated by goodness, then the net will bring up what is bad.
Wow, I forgot that paragraph, but it kind of providentially answers, not, reaffirms some of the things we were talking about earlier, isn't it? Like, how do I not end up with an empty net? After all the work I've done, how do I not? And you were saying that, weren't you, Dr. Knoll? It's got to be love. It's got to be love, or, as you were saying, the heart versus more the mind or intellectual side of life. Is there other thoughts, Guang? You've been quiet. Is it?
Not yet.
Not yet? That's okay. No, that's good. Sean, any thoughts?
Yeah. Very much all of, in our society, the celebrity or so many people or, hierarchy. And we try to build up something, and a lot of us to bring, we found Jesus. That's one of the batches. It's like a 4-star, 5 stars general of the batches here. So many of what I did here, what we put here, and put one more. It's I know Jesus. I found Jesus and put it here. So one of those.
Yeah.
In a society, glory, somewhere. It's character good. Look, this is no Jesus. It's got a religion. And this is kind of like that. But that is like a uniting so many worldly things. This society is still doing that. I'm more familiar Chinese societies like that in a Christian world, but in here, I've been a employee for several largest church in Australia and largest church in Brisbane. So these kind of things happening, I shocked. So this is really deep. And when I close it, the deep is I with the tears. It's just last night. It's a like little hand like that, and the man like that. In between them is demolished the building. They cannot see each other.
Wow.
And they in the building they demolish the things. It's only a little hand out of those
Rubble.
what do you call it?
Rubble.
Rubble.
The rubble, the hand
Yeah,
coming through
rubble
the rubble.
hand.
Yeah.
And the man, and the kneel there. I just hold this. So many big society, just very quiet, do nothing. Just hold this. This moment probably is answer us. The world, no matter how flesh, how flourish at the moment, what we grab is the Lord, is the hand to hold it.
Beautiful.
That's all.
Oh.
That's all.
Mm.
That's why that faith comes out of a religion. That's why in the Western world today, in Europe, when a survey was done, 55 to 60% of the Europeans confirm that they are non-religious. So the religiousness is getting out of the mind today.
Mm.
People don't want to attach themselves to a religion. But the religion is your character, it's your personality. So the faith, what you have been talking about, unless we have the faith in God, these challenges will completely destroy us, it will swallow us. But the faith in God, one faith, yes, hold on to the hands of God, that energy which flows through that faith is worldly energy. The entire world will support you when you have the faith in God. Because God is the one who created the universe. There's all the powers in Him. But do we have the faith which is 100% pure and strong in Him?
Mm.
So He is waiting in our heart for us to talk to Him. Yes, Lord, I want you. I want you to hold my hand. But we always wanted a doctor to come in, the medicines to come in, the surgery to go in. All these things are not part of the healing process. The healing process is always the faith.
Mm.
Right? Without any medicine, anything, God can strike a miracle and bring a healing. I have seen it many times in my life. God can heal if you believe. But we don't believe God. We believe the doctors, unfortunately. But none of the doctors today, have got that faith for healing. They wanted to make their money and give the prescription. That is not the answer for healing. What you said is
Well,
awesome.
it's the same Noel, with the church, in terms of where religion is being broken down because it's been corrupted, right? So religion is a set of rules you have to abide by. That's the definition of religion.
Sure.
And so when you have these dictates that tell you these are the rules you have to live by, and it's not different to the doctors and the bureaucrats and
It's
others.
just another-
It's just another thing,
Another filter.
another filter, but somebody controlling you, taking power away from you, right? And you buy into that. What we see was people being broken away. Like the church and religion, I'm quite happy with the term religion, has had a really good place in life. And when you're younger, there is a need for that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people rejecting it because the bad side of religion is now also being shown up for what it is. And we're now in this period whereby we're trying to get rid of all of this, the bad structures,
Created a fear in your mind.
and
yeah.
find new ways or structures, to put that together.
Well, Gandhi said God has no religion.
Yes,
That's so sad. And he also said is where there is God, there is love.
That's it.
So that, I mean, if we can listen to anyone's doctrine whatsoever, but something mightn't tick, but if we know it's from God, we can't explain it, we just know it's from God.
Isn't there a saying, doctrine divides?
Yeah. There was doctrine divides.
Probably love unites or something.
Love,
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
That's so
Well,
true.
but of course the truth is very divisive, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're just wielding the sword around,
Well, truth is destructive. It has to be.
yeah,
If we're going to build something eternal and good and
but it
wholesome.
also creates. Jesus
Well,
creates.
it creates when it's in a marriage with love. Oh goodness, yeah, truth. But truth, its primary
Shapes.
role of truth is to divide, which is sort of at the heart of this parable. There's a dividing here because if we want red, I can't keep putting blue in it and have red anymore. What I'm trying to say is that the world is upset with there being segregation or they want you to go into class and everybody gets a pass. But I like the way someone said, I won't say who, do you want the people flying your planes to just get a pass, or do you want the best of the best flying your plane? We have to have these separations, not as a judgment, but so that red can be red and yellow can be yellow, and each goodness and truth can shine in its own way. And we can also identify when bad is bad and evil is evil. You mix it all together, you're gonna get lost. Let's pray. Sadly, dear Lord, we thank you for your love, that it descends in your word, and it shines in our heart. It shows us the way into truth and into good. We love you, and we want to be more like you. Amen. Yeah. So I hope you don't mind continuing this. It's going to be exciting. We'll continue this next week, next month. We'll do part 2.
Girls making some coffee.
Yes. Yes. Well, that would be lovely. Do you want to let the girls do that? But I just thought I'd give you a 5-minute sort of breakdown of what has unfolded for Ian. But if you want to, all right. So if you want to go, you do that. Okay. So Ian was on his way on Tuesday morning. He'd gotten in his car on his way to go to the doctor's. He'd had an appointment due.
I wonder
And
why
most of us have probably been to Ian's house here. Have you been there yet, Dr. Not yet? No. He's got a little suburb, but it's kind of separated by the Logan Road. Big, busy Logan Road there where, what's that shopping centre? Garden City is.
Yeah.
Big Logan Road, but also the highway crosses over it.
Yeah.
It's a bridge,
We
a
know
highway.
that well.
Yeah.
For Munkarabat.
I've done this many times. Ian was coming out and he gets onto Logan Road, and you've got to really quickly get onto Logan Road. This was like 8 o'clock in the morning. Get over to the far right lane so that you can wait for the lights to stop, so you can turn into the oncoming Logan Road traffic, and then get onto a slip road that will get you up onto the freeway. So here he is. He's done all of this. Very patient man. And then as he's got onto the slip road, it's that time of the day where we've all experienced this, where they've got the lights getting on and off the highway. They're normally off, but at really busy peak hours, they'll go red, orange, they'll go red, green, orange, red, and they'll do it very quickly, within 5 seconds. So Ian's coming up the slip road, and he sees it's green, and he knows, well, it's going to go red. And sure enough, he slows down, he pulls up, and it goes red. Well, there was a young gentleman in his 20s, a tradie, in a big 4-wheel drive, who brain must have just been like blanked out and was so over-focused on the lights, and he was also focused on the second lane. He said he was worried about the person next to him, and he saw the lights and sped up to get into the freeway, and Ian's car was there parked waiting. So he says 60 to 80 kilometres an hour. I'm going to say 80 plus. He's just gone, bang, straight into the back of Ian's car. Now, I know this by first-hand witness. We all know Ken Thompson, yes? Ken Thompson? President Ken Thompson. He helps me do the Holy Supper at Family Service. Ken Thompson. Ken Thompson was driving straight past there seconds after the accident had happened.
Really?
Seconds. And he said, Darren, I looked over and said, those two cars are a write-off. Wow. And I think he was thankful that the traffic hadn't ground to a halt, because it only took a few minutes and it ground to a halt. And thankfully Ian's car wasn't pushed out onto the highway as well. He was enough on the slip road. It's just the accident happened there. But he drove past and said, wow, those cars are a write-off, especially that red one. Not even knowing it was Ian's car. And he said he saw the guy from the 4-wheel drive standing outside talking to Ian. We're talking to someone. And Ian tells me this young fellow was just like, I'm so sorry, it was my fault, it's my fault. And he was just grieved over what had happened. And typical Ian is trying to comfort this young man. It's okay, it's okay. But here I am thinking, he's turning and talking to this guy with a C2 brake, clean brake in his C2. Oh. Anyway, so Ken goes and then rings Ian 3 o'clock that afternoon and suddenly puts the pieces together and realises what had happened, that he was there. But Ian tells me it didn't take long, and the fireys got there, and his car, this is what Ken said. Ken said that the car behind had hit so hard, his boot was gone. There was no boot. It was flat against the back seat. And it had damaged all the front of the car as well. The fiery...
There was a car in the front, wasn't there?
No, there was no car in the front. That just tells you how hard this impact was. There was no car in the front. Ian was just braked at waiting. And this 4-wheel drive has hit it so hard with its push bar, it's crushed the back, and then damaged all the doors so that the fireys couldn't even get in. So the fireys somehow, one of the fireys somehow climbs in the front window to sit with Ian and hold his neck while they use the jaws of life and cut him out of the car. And even there, the fireys are saying, we're so sorry we're having to cut your car up. I mean, this is just, I'm just seeing all these angels around Ian, caring for him and looking for him. Because, you know, we know from the writings that accidents are the work of evil spirits. They're never the work of God. Accidents are always evil spirits. But the Lord is there mitigating the accident as much as he possibly can. And it's miraculous. It's miraculous that that there was no one else in the car, and that Ian came out alive. You know. So he has the broken neck. He has some particularly the right leg is swollen. But we're going to keep praying for him. That's the swelling. The swelling's going out. Angels are turning up and ministering to him. The swelling's going out. The neck is going to be healed, and they will make all the right decisions they need to make. That'll be Gay. She probably wants to find out how Ian is, probably. I'll get back to her. So they cut him out and they took him to the PA, and that's where he stayed. And they kept him obviously in a restricted state, not knowing until they could do.
Is that just the closest hospital?
Yeah, closest hospital, the PA here.
Okay.
And
So
so
they
they-
didn't want to take him to Wesley?
No, they didn't want to take him to Wesley.
Often an ambulance will only take you on this side of the river. They
But
won't-
also, it was
They won't cross the river.
suspected spinal injuries. That's the
Bingo.
only place in
Bingo.
Queensland you'll
Yep.
go for spinal injuries.
Bingo.
That's the only place. So they would have done CT scans, MRI scans to make sure there was no damage to the cord. Then they can summarise from there whether.
You're absolutely right, Chris. That's what happened. They did the 2 scans and saw the break. The X-ray and CAT scan.
An MRI?
They did that a little later. They did that. So that's another reason they didn't move him. They wanted to just keep him still till they could do an MRI and get even deeper evidence of how to treat him and whatever. So it's been frustrating for Ian because, you know, he's always. I think his medical plan is built into the Wesley. So, and it's where he's volunteered for over 5 years. He knows everyone. It's a beautiful place. Bless them over there. They do a wonderful job. But the Wesley's amazing, and I'm just so glad that finally yesterday afternoon, thanks to Sally pushing me, I didn't want to go and bother Ian. I finally decided I'm enough of waiting for them to move him. I'm just going to go and see him. And I went and saw him, and I got an hour alone with him. And he said, Darren, thank you, it's such a good time. I've been fretting about this ambulance thing. You here is just letting me just forget. And we stayed, and we talked, and we prayed, and I could just see Ian coming out, the pain lifting and Ian coming out. And then as the hour went on, suddenly the ambulance turned up. And I was like, yes, he's going to be moved. So I went over to Wesley with him. Shortly after, Helen and the kids turned up. More angels turned up. So that's beautiful. What I would say is, if you can, just let Ian settle in. Just give it another day or two. He is really keen to have you come and visit him. But he just wants another day or two to settle and get out of pain, because he doesn't want to be in pain around us, you know. This is Ian, thinking of us always, you know. So if you feel to go up, just do it. Ignore me and just go up. But if you've got time and you can wait, give it till the midweek and then get up there and see him. What is it? It's Ward 1? No,
17. Yeah.
Room 17.
No, yeah, room 17.
So go to Ward, if you want to go see him, it's Ward 1, right?
Ward 1,
Go
yeah.
down to the bottom level, Ward 1 they call it. Room 17.
1K, room
1K.
17.
1K, that's right.
1K, thank you. 1K, that's the right
Oh,
instruction.
I've been talking to Ben because I've seen how Ben was going.
He'll have his family up there, lots of family up there over the next couple of days. Steven's coming in today. So we'll give them a bit of room too. This is a piece of string. With us praying, shorter than they'll say, but this is a piece of string, because there are so many ways they can handle this. I was reading on the internet what they do with a lot of C2 breaks. So you've got your skull, then you've got your very first spine bone there called C1, and then the second one is the one that's broken. So they may want to put pins in. I don't know what they'll do. They've got their ways of doing it.
So all his other doctors, specialists, there at the Wesley.
Mm.
Like this, yeah.
All of
This
them
is
there, so he'll get
yeah.
the best care there. Yeah. And he'll got all the scans he needs to send over. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good because, yeah, I've had dealings with that place, and I said to my family, if I leave the physical world in that place or Redlands, I will haunt you and haunt you. That place I wouldn't send a cockroach to. Sorry. but
Yes, yes.
They had their good points, but
They've got good points, but it's a
You've
public
had
system,
bad.
isn't
oh
it?
man,
had
just
that.
honestly, I was in pre-op there
Yes.
for 18 hours. They turned all the lights out and forgot I was in there.
Oh no.
And I've gone, I was the only patient, and I rang my mum and said, Mum, I think they forgot. They couldn't have forgotten you. And they did. They totally forgot I was even in there.
Chris.
And then when they come in, you know, making up excuses. They just, honestly, the mistakes they've made in my whole family. My sister was in there for a year for a spinal injury from a car accident. And just, I know, I appreciate public health. I really, Lord, I really
Yes.
do. But you are just a number. You are just an inconvenience. You get the odd nice person.
They didn't pick up that.
They sent me home with a severe fractured head of humerus, 2 weeks on Panadol. I've come in and they've gone, just picked up the x-rays. Called in all the other doctors. Oh, look at this guy, look, and it's split like a fence paling. You've been at home for 2 weeks. How did you cope? I said, just Panadol. He goes, we can't let you go now. We can't let you go now. I said, hang on, 2 weeks. You sent me home. I have been, haven't slept for 2 weeks. I'm in pain. And now all of a sudden it's a, left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
So Chris is telling us exactly what we're praying for Ian. He's getting the best care. He's getting all
Yeah,
And it
because
was-
he's had a
he's
good
getting all those-
experience.
And I was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
relieved when I heard that. It was just like, oh, because that place, like mentally, that I mean, it's just, yeah, it's. They shove you in there and you hear everyone's.
My
everything.
brother broke his C1 and C4 last
C1.
week.
Wow.
And he had 2 operations, one for about 4 hours. So Ian's been praying every day for him right through the night, and he survived it. He was in a beach accident where he was swimming and smashed last week on Old Warburton in Sydney, Coogee Beach, onto the sand, got up and ran to his girlfriend.
With a broken neck.
So
Yeah.
Ines Sir got
C1,
dumb.
C2.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he broke, and so they
That's
operated
drilled
and
into his
put
skull.
C1 and C2 together with 2 pins, screws.
So no spinal cord damage at all.
Isn't that a miracle?
No, could have Ian's
running with a
prayers, I
broken neck.
reckon, and other people's prayers. And then what happened was it moved, they moved, so they had to go in 2 or 3 days later. Best spinal surgeon in the world, Dr. Emma WBS, Dr. Mods, apparently. He's in the top 5 in the world. He was happened to be there, so he's started his first cab off the ranks right through to about, I kept texting while I was at work. I was at home just praying. And day off, and about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, so it was about a 6-hour operation. And they put like fake bone, like artificial bone to his skull.
Wow.
They've attached a plate to his skull to the C1 to just keep it all stable. And so now he wears a brace. And for a very active man, my brother was always kung fu. He's like black belt and gym and running around the lake in Canberra every day, doing his job, IT, that was his job, and IT support for the activities. And he had other things he was doing, lots of stuff. Anyway, now he's able to, the last 3 days he's been able to get up and walk a few steps. He's
Nice.
back home now.
So lucky.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we could
So
could go any
thank you, Ian,
a lot of
and
different
everyone
ways,
for
but it
praying
will
for him.
will go the best way in Jesus' name. It will go the best way for Ian.
Yeah. And
He'll
I'll
get
go
all
the
the best
way
care.
for Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. But I could see an operation or something, but it depends on.
Focus on Ian.
Well, it's what? Yeah.
I mean-
the rest of his body is able to,
I didn't
cope
wanna ask
with and
what-
the positioning and
Yeah,
everything because of the lungs. They can't. I think he was saying that's why he couldn't have a major operation
On the lower back.
Yeah,
Mm.
because he couldn't be on his chest for extended period
Periods
of
of time.
time
Yeah.
because of the
They
lungs.
wouldn't be difficult.
So-
And he's got a pacemaker, which got in the way of the MRI. That's-
Oh yeah.
but,
Oh, did it?
Yeah, they eventually got around it. But so there's got to be a solution. We know the Lord's got a solution for him. So let's all keep him in our prayers, and I'll keep you all posted, of course, via email. And you guys know where the Wesley is. You can go see him at the Wesley. Yeah. So let's. How are you, Russell? We didn't hear from you. Is everything good?
Yeah, everything's good, yeah.
Yeah. Getting lots of work.
Oh, heaps of work, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all good.
Nah.
What sort of work was it?
I just do been doing a lot of work with Sean, actually.
Are you still doing that?
Working
Still doing
at
that
this
work?
place.
Yeah.
Well, at his place?
Yeah, renovating rooms for his B&B.
Come and have a look.
B&B, yeah.
Got to book him and stay night.
So Sean, is Benjamin, is Benjamin still staying there? Yeah. And how's he settling in?
Very successful. Very beautiful house.
He came last week. Yeah, so he just arrived in Australia that week from China.
Oh, is
So,
this a new
so he was staying in the
Exchange.
Airbnb.
Oh, exchange student.
Church,
He's come over to study. Yeah.